I'll call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is approval of minutes of April 6th, regular Board of Selectmen's meeting. Is there a motion to approve those?
I move to approve them.
Is there a second?
Second to that.
Any discussion? My only comment is I think the meetings are an excellent distillation of the essential facts of our meeting, and thank you, John. So all those in favor of approving the minutes of April 6th?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Communications from the town clerk. There is going to be the annual high school referendum on May 4th at Town Hall from noon to 6. Electors and people eligible to vote at town meeting are eligible to go there. Absentee ballots are available at the town clerk's office. You can give her a call. It's also important for people. There is an option to vote if you're not registered to vote here. If you are a property owner, United States citizen, and over 18 years of age and have owned property in the town, assessed for not less than $1,000, you can also vote in the town meeting, whether it's a school referendum or the town meeting that we have coming up on April 23rd, but it is restricted to those two groups of voters. So anyway, that's from the town clerk, and she does keep a list of people who are not registered voters but are eligible to vote in her office. And it's been a while since we've had a town meeting. So just to put information for people is of how you vote at a town meeting. Absentee ballots are available at her office. And if you want to know about that, please call Vera. Next on the agenda, additions to the agenda. Any additions?
No.
No, I have nothing.
Okay. Then we'll move into COVID update. Again, we're moving through the vaccination cycle, and people are urged to read our COVID update to find out the latest places to get vaccinated. And I think one thing we're still working on is the food supply. There are still people that are have food scarcity in town. And thanks again to Heather and the group of people at the food pantry. There is some turnover in volunteers, so if people are interested in helping at the food pantry, please contact Heather Deneen, social service agent. And again, people are encouraged to either make a donation to the Food and Fuel Fund or drop off supplies that are on Heather's list, which she does post on the website. Anything else on the COVID-19 from the board?
Not for me.
Okay.
Not from me. No.
Right. And we've set the schedule for Memorial Day. We're working on getting a parade of fire trucks and to go around the various cemeteries where veterans are buried. The schedule which we'll post on the website and in the Chronicle is to start at the North Cornwall Cemetery at 9:30, be in Cornwall Hollow by 9:45, West Cornwall at 10 o'clock, Cornwall Bridge at 10:30, and Cornwall Village at 11. So again, we're not looking for crowds at these events. We will have them filmed, and we will have taps and honor rolls and a few short speeches at the Cornwall Village monuments at 11 o'clock.
Gordon,
Yes,
on a technical note,
yes.
we're getting some feedback. Priscilla, if you turn the volume down on your computer, we're getting some reverb.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, it's not too bad. Go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry, thank you.
all right. Well, okay, so next is town meeting, April 23rd, 7:30 PM. And that will be a virtual town meeting. And we have 4 things on the agenda. We have put a link to the items on the call on the town website. The annual report for the preceding year, the 5-year plan of transferring the West Cornwall Firehouse lot to William Betts, and the budget hearing will follow. People may pick up a copy of the budget. It is available at post offices and other places in town. It looks like this. It's multicolored. The 5-year plan is in this color, is in pink. So that lists the capital plan part of it. And again, that budget hearing will follow the town meeting on April 23rd. So we hope people come and participate. There's a lot of things on the agenda, chance for people to ask questions. We try to have representatives from boards and commissions there to answer questions, both budget and the report for last year. So any other thoughts about the April 23rd town meeting?
No.
Okay. So next, the town is receiving some funds as part of the American Rescue Plan. I believe it's about $100,000, and we're awaiting the details on how that's spent. But there is some latitude on the municipality's part to pay for expenses incurred as part of the pandemic, as well as some potential infrastructure projects or some COVID recovery projects. So again, there's also assistance, potential assistance for nonprofits. We've seen some of the nonprofits in Cornwall have reduced fundraising because of COVID restrictions. And so we'll get that.
Sorry, Gordon, I know why you're getting, I think I know why you're getting the reverb. It's because she's got her audio phone on at the same time as her video, Priscilla. That happens when they're,
We know, actually, that was what Jonathan tried to address earlier. We're just gonna go with it because she doesn't know how to address the computer.
if she just disconnects her audio, it'll wipe out that reverb. She's got her video and her, like she has 2 different connections coming in. Priscilla, you see that, Jonathan? That's okay.
I wasn't able to do it, so I'm using the phone.
I think we can go forward. It's not that bad.
Right.
Thank you.
Or Priscilla, I guess the short answer is if you shut down the computer, I believe that will cancel the reverberation. Is that correct? If we just have one device on per person,
Yeah,
that will,
but she may have
that's
her
fine.
agenda open on her computer.
It says I'm leaving meeting if I try to shut down. It says leave meeting. Well, I'll do it.
You would still have your phone connection. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Okay.
Great. All right. No reverb. Great. All right. Okay, so anyway, we'll give the board more input on that additional funding. We should get some information in the next month on that. And again, the funding is spread over a 2-year period. And it'll be interesting to see what the guidelines are for that. Next on our agenda, item 5, the Cornwall Bridge Traffic Study Forum. We had a very good forum last week on this, well attended, good, positive comments. And I didn't know if the board had any feedback or thoughts on the forum or proceeding.
I agree with you that there was a lot of good info put forward, but I don't see anything happening yet.
Yeah, well, I think, yep. Maria, did you have something?
No, I agree. I mean, I think there is a lot more work to be done towards the planning of it. I think we're in very early stages, but I'm glad that we had that forum to get as much input as possible. I didn't think the initial study was as thought out as it could have been.
Yeah, I didn't think the quick draw or whatever it was very practical. But that being said, I think there's opportunity. I mean, my takeaway or my thought is we could put out and do a consult some engineers, maybe talk to Rick Lynn,
Yeah.
Put out an RFP, I think, to hire somebody, especially if we do have this extra money maybe coming in, to look at the issue. It would be very maybe modest, grassroots, hands-on, practical idea session study with interplay with the local DOT people. We don't want to get too far off what's possible with them, but I think it's complicated and it's not complicated at the same time. I mean, towns deal with these kind of issues. So that would be my thought, is maybe get some ideas of how to get a smaller, I mean, the idea of spending $200,000 to study this just is, I think that sort of sets a tone of overdone, just in my way of looking at things. So anyway, let me get some more information on that. But I think if we go forward, we have a bit of a record now of information, ideas. The idea of the complete streets thing with Terry, I think, makes sense, accommodating pedestrians and bicyclists more than perhaps the original plans called for. This is a good place to start. And again, we have local talent, so why not plug into it some sort of coherent study going forward?
Yeah, and I mean, I think about beyond that, I think it's the type of issue that is super locally focused, in the sense that, like, the people that use that area the most have probably a very important input, versus somebody who can study it, objectively, which is also great. But like, the people that use it the most probably have the, interesting input and possible solutions. So I definitely think some sort of grassroots effort is important.
Yeah. Okay. So then we'll move in that grassroots direction and keep that as an agenda item until we get something, set an RFP together to get some professional guidance on the subject. Next, we have bridges, summer work, scope of work. Like to separate that out again. Roger Kane is with us. And I'd like to separate it out as we have 4 bridges with 4 possible locations. Music Mountain Road at the Falls Village Town Line, Popple Swamp Road, 2 bridges near Route 4, and West Street, which is off Popple Swamp. And again, these are mostly to repair masonry wings, address scour issues, and in 2 cases, put in a membrane to protect the concrete deck area. So, did the board get that memo from Roger?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Great.
We did.
So, Roger, you there? Any questions? Any comments for Roger? Have you contacted this Hamanasset Construction that has the state bid to do this type of work?
Yes, I have. They're going to be in the area on the 25th of April. So we're going to get together and look at the Popple Swamp 2 sites and the West Street. We probably won't get all the way up to Music Mountain, but Music Mountain is just the membrane waterproofing and overlay. So it'll be the same as one of the bridges on Popple Swamp. I mean, virtually the same. So we'll meet on the 25th and see who they want to. They're going to have to use a subcontractor for the membrane, but all the rest of the work they can do themselves.
And so you'll report back to us how much work they expect to get done.
Right. One of the things they need them to do is they have an hourly rate, but what can get accomplished in an hour, their hourly rate is relatively modest considering men and equipment. Additional to the hourly rate will be all the material. So that if we require a specific type of membrane waterproofing, that is over and above the hourly rate. The asphalt will be over and above the hourly rate. If they need mortar mix to reattach the stones to the wall, and there's some missing stones to one of the abutments, that'll all be at an extra cost. So we've got to kind of balance out what the hourly rate and the material is actually going to come to.
And my question is also, so this is like shoring up these bridges essentially. So what is like the timeline?
There's no shoring up at all.
Well, isn't that what you're doing if you're sort of making sure that the membrane is intact?
Well, there is no membrane. It was not built with either.
So you're putting in a membrane.
Right. So
Got it. Okay.
We're trying to, if you will, lengthen the longevity of the bridge deck. So the bridge deck will not be changed, assuming that there's no significant holes in the bridge deck. We're just going to patch the surface of the deck, pour on a asphalt adhesive, put a fiberglass woven fabric on, and put another coat of asphalt over the bridge.
Okay, and so that will ensure the longevity for X number of years.
Hopefully, yes.
Do we have an estimate on that, or is that just?
I'll say if everything goes as expected, they would increase the longevity of the bridge 15 to 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
So any other questions for Roger? Any other thoughts? I think it'd be appropriate then if we proceed with this scope of work for these 4 bridges. So I would make that motion to authorize Roger to proceed with Hamanasset Construction to rehabilitate these 4 bridges as discussed in this scope of work.
I move to go forward.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second
Second.
that. All right, Priscilla seconds. Any more discussion? Roger, do you have an idea of time frame when they would start this work?
I'll know better after the 25th of this month. We're going to meet on site on the 25th. I'm hoping to meet at the town hall parking lot. You can come out meet the principals involved.
Sure.
There'll be 2 fellows, I believe. Then we'll go take a look at the field work and have a better idea of how far we can go for how much money.
What time on the 25th?
To be determined, I'm expecting 10 o'clock. That's usually what
Okay.
works out.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when I firm it up.
Right. Okay, so any more questions on those 4 bridges? But generally, the bridges are in good shape,
Yes.
right? And they could last another 20 plus, 40, 50.
Well, yes, on
Who
their
knows?
own. Putting a membrane on the 2 bridges that I've indicated will help those, those bridges are in particularly good shape. The other 2 bridges that are not listed for the membrane are what I call ballast bridges, which mean they have fill over the top of the deck. Where the 2 bridges that are going to get the membrane, the deck is the wearing surface.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. All right, so any more discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Great. So then, are
Hewn surface of the timber. But it's right in the center of Milton. It's been completed for a little more than a year. I suggest anybody take a swing by, take a look at it and see what they think.
but that has, even though it looks wooden, it's a metal backing.
Right.
too. And was the contractor there Dayton who did a couple bridges for us?
Yes. They
Right.
hired a subcontractor to do the rail, but they did all the bridge work.
And do you have a rough idea what that railing system costs Dayton to put in, or you want to
Yes.
wait on?
As far as the unit price goes, and this meets the state and federal standards, it was over $175,000.
For the railing system there?
Right.
Yeah, because yeah, and also they had to put steel backing on the wood.
But that's 3/8 inch thick, and it has to be pre-bent if it's on any kind of a radius.
Oh, okay. Any other thoughts from the board on Cogswell at this point? We were talking about replacing the top rail. I had a quick conversation with Ian Ingersoll about a wooden option. I need to get back to him to go a little farther in that idea. We were talking replacing the top rail, maybe doing paint. Haven't gotten any farther on the paint idea. It is a limited budget because we have some other bridges that we have to attend to. Any other thoughts on that? We don't have to make any decisions tonight or anything. We don't have anything set in concrete at this point.
No, I think as discussed, I think we have a little bit of time, and I think we should make the best decision possible going forward. So I think the more information we can get, the better.
Yeah. Okay. Priscilla, any thoughts?
No, I agree that it needs to be more attractive than that ugly metal, but wood seems to be a preference, and as long as it's safe and strong, I think we should do it
Okay.
with the wood, if we can do it.
Right. There is a budgetary concern about putting in a whole wooden system there.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we're still early on it. Okay. Housing forum. important note that is scheduled for May 24th, which is a Monday at 7 p.m. Next meeting of the Housing Planning group is going to be this Monday, this coming Monday, 26th of April at 4 p.m. again, also on Zoom. And the details of the housing meeting are up on the website, I believe. And one of the topics of that meeting will be the forums coming up. The idea being that there is some good work that's being done in the field of housing. Certainly the price of housing in Cornwall has gone up dramatically in the last year. And this again is one of the big issues of the Cornwall Town Plan. And the main thing we're trying to do is to get our state requirements. The town has to have a housing plan to get our plan in sync with what's called for in the town plan, and have some community input for ideas, and get there's some people that are working in the housing field that have done some creative things. So we're going to again have a forum scheduled for May 24th. Any other thoughts about the housing forum? This is one of the goals for the Board of Selectmen had for the current term. So anyway, I need to reach out again to the bank, the National Iron Bank, and see if they can present something about the program they have for first homeowners, first-time home buyers. Apparently they have one out of the Norfolk branch, and I'll try to talk to Ron down there and see if they can make a brief presentation on how that would get set up. So any other thoughts on the forum?
No, looking forward to it.
Good. Okay. Cybersecurity quote, we have applied for an insurance quote on cybersecurity. And we'll keep that as an agenda item as we learn more about cybersecurity. Next, we have public comment. Ask speakers to try to stick to the agenda item. We're supposed to be meeting on issues that are posted, and that's about it. So any public comments? A couple of meetings coming up. Said to reinforce, there is a town meeting on Friday, housing meeting on Monday, and more meetings scheduled in forums in May.
And Zinser?
Am I unmuted?
You are, go ahead.
Okay, well, this has to do with everything because it has to do with the board. I've lived here for 40 years, and when I came, I became friends with people who lived here 40 years. And Cornwall has always been, and was then, and still is, unique, creative, self-sufficient, informal, quite different from the towns that surround it. We've always been aware of that, and it's been its appeal. And if in those days a regional plan was imposed in any way, they would have said no way. And I just don't understand. I'm really perplexed how things have gone as far as they have with COG. And I know that when I did a petition, didn't take me long to get 100 people, or nearly 100, who were also perplexed. And I need to know, and maybe at this, I'm glad there's a town meeting. There should have been a town meeting when COG first appeared. Gordon, if you just presented that to us and we could have discussed it. You used the word grassroots twice. You did and Marina did. What a lovely word that is. So I'm just concerned, as are many people, what's the financial thing between COG and us? Who is employed by COG, who's here in Cornwall on these committees? What's the town of Cornwall's relationship financially with COG? In other words, what's going on? And I speak for many, many, many people. And that's about what I have to say. And would you, at the town meeting on Friday, could you address some of, or all of these financial situations to do with COG? That's
Sure.
transparency, which we learned is a very important thing. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be glad to even address something now as we have.
Well,
some
why
time.
don't you wait? All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important because I think there has been quite a bit of misinformation that has been circulated out about the role of COG. And I think it is very transparent. They have their website. The Council of Governments, as it stands now, is an association of 21 towns in northwestern Connecticut. The town of Cornwall first joined a regional planning agency in the I believe the 1970s, with a town meeting. There were 9 towns, the Region 1 towns, and the town of Washington, Roxbury, and Warren. So there were 9 towns in a regional planning agency. Then in the 1980s, the state, because what happened was in Connecticut, there is no county government. Connecticut is almost unique in the 50 states, and that there is no county government. County government was abolished in Connecticut in the 1960s for reason I wasn't, believe it or not, I wasn't here in the 1960s. So I don't exactly know why, but from what I understand, the state was concerned that certain counties, especially Fairfield County, had more power than almost the rest of the state put together. So for whatever reason, the state abolished county government. But they felt that the towns should address regional issues together. So you didn't have 169 different approaches to common issues in the same way we have a regional high school. So in the 1970s, the town meeting in Cornwall did vote to join the regional planning agency with 9 other towns. 1980s, those were turned into Council of Governments, from more of a strictly regional planning agency to a association of the chief elected officials of those towns. And the town meeting in Cornwall again voted, as did the towns in the region, to join that. And then I believe in around the year 2000, our Northwest Hills or Northwest COG was merged with Litchfield Hills COG. And so we became 21 towns. And the COG has their own website. It's been run for years since its association. The executive director who's going to retire in June is Rick Lynn, who is from Cornwall. He was chair of the Cornwall Planning and Zoning Commission for years, served on it, been active in the community, knows Cornwall well. And I think this, it's been a great assistance to the towns to do many projects and get these towns working together when it's appropriate. And each town keeps its own authority. And it's really, I think if you watched a Council of Governments meeting, I think a lot of the myths that have been put out recently about it would be dispelled as far as what it does, what the role are. It's very much respectful of local authority, and in fact gives the towns out here a voice of dealing or working together and dealing with the state of Connecticut in a way we can't do by ourselves. So I think that's a little bit of background. There have been town meetings going back for decades as far as our role. If we weren't part of the COG, we would be the only one of 20 towns in northwestern Connecticut that wasn't part of it, and the town would really lose out. I can send you, and I did dig out this famous, now famous checklist of dealing with home-based businesses, and I don't really want to get into that issue because that's in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. But I believe the COG checklist about home-based business-friendly regulations, which should be circulated, the old Cornwall regulations, the existing regulations would pass this checklist, as would the proposed regulations. I think they're very balanced. They talk about the purpose of these things is a very balanced approach. So anyway, I'd be glad to send those on to you because I think it would dispel a lot of the misinformation about what's going on. Because it also gives examples of other towns, Canaan Falls Village, Litchfield. It's not a one size fit all. And I think our existing regulations and the proposed regulations both fit this checklist. There's nothing in it that the town of Cornwall didn't choose to do by itself. But
Well-
anyway, I'll be glad to post those regulations up there and the link and of how people can understand. Well, I mean, they do a lot of things with hiking trails and things that are pretty benign, I think. And they're strictly advisory to the town. So
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
it sounds like they're more than that in the P and Z. It sounds like such a departure from the planning and zoning regulations that were there before. And again, the mystery is why we couldn't just use that. Why?
So I think some of that is, I mean, I'd be glad to talk about the COG. I don't really want to get too much into the what's in front of planning and zoning hearing right now, and they did vote to continue, which I think is a good idea. But I'd be glad to send you this checklist. So I think it goes a long way to explaining things. So thank you, Ann. Any other comments? Any comments from the board?
I think Jane Garmy, did you have your hand up earlier?
Yeah, I just want to, Gordon, for those of us on Cogswell Road who are working to see what we can come up with you for to replace to improve the bridge repair that was done last year. Can you clarify two things? Does the top can it be removed under state regulations, or does it have to be replaced? That's the first question.
The top rail is, I believe it's optional at this point. The thought is we do want to have something there. It doesn't have to be as big as it does now.
So we do not actually have to replace the top rail.
Well, I'm not sure I'd go that far, but it doesn't have to be the way it is now.
But can it be less hard? I mean, I think, can we have some specific written, I mean, what are the regulations that we have to abide by?
I think, well, there's some flexibility, but I think you also have to run things past an engineer if you deviate too much. So.
But and my other question is the side railings, which extend, especially on the opposites, on the Scott side of the bridge, that extend far longer than what we had before. Again, what are the state regulations concerning the length of the side railings?
I think is Roger still here with us?
I'm still on.
Yeah, I think Roger was there when the old cable was removed. And are these the same length as what was there, or are they slightly different? Or are
They are the same on the Scott side, slightly shorter on a portion that goes towards Cream Hill Road. The only piece that is slightly longer is the piece that goes to the utility pole opposite the intersecting road there, right? Hill Road? Is that what comes up there?
That's right.
Okay, so that is about 18 feet longer than it was. Everything else is the same size or shorter.
Just one question, Roger. On the that side of the road, I guess it's the south side of the road, going towards Cream Hill, the new fencing covers the old fencing. The old fencing has not been replaced. Can we just go back to having the old fencing?
It's
Is there any?
it's a traffic hazard, not a safety device. So that if you talk to the district traffic engineer, he'd advise the town to remove all of the 2 cable wire rope railing in town. It is unsafe.
So that would mean all the railing going up Cream Hill from the elementary school up to Cogswell?
All of the wire rope railing. If there's that section down by Julia Scott's house, the rail has actually fallen into the brush. It's no longer visible. If you walk there, you can find it, but it is gone. It has no value at all.
But there's actually no reason why we couldn't go back to that opposite the bridge where it hasn't fallen into the ground.
Well, there is a district office in Thomaston that has what's called a district traffic engineer. And if he were invited out here, he would come out and give you his opinion. So he is available to come out on call. The town can give that a try if you'd like. Get another opinion.
The state's replacing all their post and cable beam rail over a period of time. The town is quite a ways behind the state schedule, so. But it's our understanding that the old post and cable was probably put in 50 years ago, 60 years ago, and does not meet current standards because of what happens to cars when they impact that beam rail or the post and cable.
Wire rope, right?
Right. Okay, so any other comments?
Deb Bennett?
Hi, Gordon. It's me again on this issue. Is there any way we could have a meeting with Roger, perhaps, and this engineer to discuss a more minimal, the most minimal replacement that we can? I'm kind of worried that's going to happen all through town, to our beautiful town. And
As we said, yeah.
Any way we can have a meeting so we can get some specifics about the top railing, about painting it. Just there are certain sites that are just really important. And
Right, as we said before, we do not anticipate any significant construction on other bridges at this time, so.
yeah, but what about this bridge this year, this time?
I guess we can meet out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll follow up on that. Thank you, Gordon.
All right. Next,
Toby?
Hi. I just have a comment on the bridges that were discussed at the beginning of this meeting. Do you have the bridge numbers so that they can be tied back to the Leonard report? And do you have, I just want to make sure that the repair work that's being done this summer doesn't repeat what happened last summer with the Cogswell Bridge. Some of those bridges have significant stone abutments, and they're preservation eligible in the same way that the Cogswell Road Bridge was. So I just want to see exactly which crossings you're talking about. And I think, like Deb was saying, it would be good to have a good understanding of the materials that are being used on those bridges. Even the waterproofing and the asphalt. I know that asphalt being added to a bridge last summer was an issue. Some of these are scenic roads, scenic crossings, and I think the materials that are used are very important on these bridges. For these public meetings, if there are materials, quotes, scopes of work that are being discussed as part of the public meeting, it would be nice to have them sent out as part of the agenda as attachments so the public can see those things that are being considered by the selectmen. So I just, the numbers that the state uses to identify those crossings would be nice to have them, or point me where they are on the website. Thanks.
Oh, you want me to address that, Gordon?
sure, if you have the numbers memorized, Roger, you're better than I am.
No, there are no numbers for these. These are not bridges. They're all classified as culverts. So they don't fit into, the only one that might have a number, and I'd have to check this, is West Street over Bloody Brook. That I think did get a number. That's the largest of these 4 bridges. All the other bridges, as far as I recall, did not have numbers. They're that small. And once the material has been determined and the quantities, I can easily provide that to the Board of Selectmen. So the type of material and the quantity of material, and you've got the locations. There were 2 on Popple Swamp, 1 on West Street, and the one up on Music Mountain Road. Those are the 4 structures. They're easy to find, and the Board of Selectmen does have a location for each of those. There are no ID numbers like in the Leonard report.
Thank you.
There's only one bridge on West Street, so that's the one. And I think it is in the interest of public discussion too. I think it's also important to mention that there are people that are satisfied with the work that was done last summer. So it's not a unanimous decision that things have to happen. However, I think the board is listening to people's ideas. Any other comments?
Joanne?
Thank you, Jonathan. Gordon, let's go back to what you referred to, please, as the benign activities of the Council of Governments. I mean, I don't think we should forget the fact that we have been received some misleading information, let me put it that way. We were told that our plan of conservation and development had to align with the regional agenda of the POCOD put out by the COG. Checking the statutes, is that not true? The fact is, we don't have to align with their agenda. All we have to do is identify in our POCOD what the differences are. And I personally heard Jocelyn Ayers tell the Board of Selectmen that it had to align. That was not the truth. So the fact that it's benign, yes, you're absolutely right, Gordon, in identifying the problem of federal money coming into the state that is normally channeled through counties. And Connecticut, without a county government system, has suffered in that distribution of funds. But now those funds are running through the COGs. So when you talk about the COG has a website, there is none, no financial information that's really transparent or open to the public about how they fund themselves. But is it, maybe you could elaborate on the commission that they get on grants that they administer. Do you want to address that now? Because as a member of the executive committee, I'm sure, and you sign off every month, you vote on their budget and things, you'd be familiar with that. What is the percent that they get of grants that they administer?
Again, if questions are asked ahead of time, I get usually better answers. First thing, I'm not on the executive committee, and I am on the nominating committee, along with the mayor of Torrington and the first select woman of Litchfield. And we have nominated, again, the first selectman of Barkhamsted to be the chair, the first selectman of Goshen to be the assistant chair, first selectman of North Canaan to be the secretary, and the first selectman of Harwington to be the treasurer. And again, those are Republicans and Democrats together. It's an organization that works well together. And as I said, the town has been lucky to have Rick Lynn, who also worked on our facade grant program as executive director of the COG for years. And I did ask Rick, I said, does the COG, do they get any percentage of the grants? They are funded by state DOT grants, but the actual people, the 4 people that work at the Council of Governments, 3 planners and a secretary, I believe, are all on salary. If they get a grant, they don't get anything more themselves than their salaries that they work for. So I don't think they really work on commission, and I'm not. And again, I think if you want to make a comment, you can make a comment, but I'm not the best. I'm not well versed in every single question on COG, other than the obvious thing that it works long and hard for the interest of the towns in Northwestern Connecticut, period.
Well, I'm glad that.
Whatever, we just don't agree on this, and we could.
Well, but Gordon, on any number of occasions, you have made references. You said I mischaracterized things, that it was a busload of mischaracterization of things. And yet I have not received one single example of things where what I wrote about was said to be wrong. I've just been characterized, and I believe.
I think the fundamental premise that somehow the Council of Governments of 21 municipalities crafted our plan of conservation development, which was done by our Planning and Zoning Commission, is absolutely incorrect. It was done the same way the previous 3 plans have been done. It was done by subcommittees appointed by Planning and Zoning of Cornwall citizens. This time they gave us some staff help, but it was driven by the Cornwall Planning and Zoning Commission and the Cornwall citizens that served on all those subcommittees. And to think that COG was driving the bus is not an accurate thing. And I don't want to get into a big debate about it, but that's my opinion, and you have a different opinion.
And all I'm asking is I would like to know the last date that the, since we're talking about the business regulation, was wholesale revised. Because normally Cornwall's way of doing business is incremental, based on changing things and the desires, as Anne referred to, of the community, not a wholesale revamping. And I would note that our plan of conservation and development in no way called for a total revamping of what's going on, much less a revamping of the entire P&Z regulations, which is what has been talked about in their meetings. I'm just saying that we're not, I think to call the COG benign is to close our eyes. And I think we should urge people to take actions that are more preventative, that small steps, a creeping desire to make things easy. I mean, started out with a great idea. Let's get a sander. Let's share this. Let's share this big equipment. Those all seem like great ideas, and we all know that when we get money from one source, that source being our government, which we provide the money for, it tends to come with rules and requirements. And those are imposed from the outside. And we have to decide if we want them. And if the community decides they want to go with those, that's fine. I'm just saying we should realize that they come with requirements. And I think that it would be wonderful, Gordon, if you could use your influence to make the COG more transparent, especially on their financial data. They do not release any of their financial data. Why is that?
I can get you a copy of their audit if you would like a copy of their audit.
I would love a copy of the last 5 years of their audits. Can you do that for me?
I'm not sure I can get you 5 years, but I can certainly get you the last.
Thank you. Can I pick it up from?
If you go through the phone book and pick a selectman in Northwestern Connecticut, and if you approve your town or not, do you think it's a worthwhile organization? I would, that person would say yes, and it's a worthwhile organization that helps the towns share information and instruct their leaders on how to share information and get good ideas from their fellow surrounding communities. And it's an effective voice for the region. It's the only voice for the region on a lot of state mandates. We have a very aggressive legislative committee. So anyway, enough. I think that's all I'm prepared to say on that subject tonight. Is there another speaker?
Caroline?
Hi, yeah, just following up on a few things that Ann Zinser said and Joanne said. It's interesting about the COG, and this relates to affordable housing, in that we're not the only town in our, we're not the only ones raising questions. There are towns nearby that are equally concerned about what's happening with affordable housing in their towns. In Falls Village, there was a situation where an IHZ zone was created, probably not according to proper channels. And there's a situation right now in Salisbury, and the IHG zone that was spearheaded by the COG. And there's a situation in Salisbury for an affordable housing project that was also spearheaded by the COG, which has significant problems, not the least of which is that it was claimed by the COG that the project was going to be built on a vacant lot, and it turns out that that vacant lot was actually on the National Register of Historic Places in the historic district. So there's a lot of outcry about that. So what Ann is talking about and what Joanne is talking about, we're seeing in a lot of towns around here, these concerns that the COG is basically wielding too heavy of a hand, and they're not really starting from the ground up and working for what the towns need, but they're actually kind of coming with a regional agenda and almost imposing that on the towns. And I understand what you're saying, Gordon, that each member of each board of selectmen is on the board, and they vote these things, they approve these as well. And that there's a lot of money that does come to our region with the COG, that some of which is helpful, but it doesn't kind of mean that because we get a lot of some benefits from it, that we can't be critical and look at things critically for other issues. I think there's kind of a wholesale acceptance of what the COG does without really focusing on specific things. And they are very heavy-handed, just as Joanne said, they required approval of our plan of conservation and development. They did the same thing in Roxbury, and Roxbury tried to push back. And Jocelyn Ayer of the COG actually told them that state funding could be withheld if they didn't agree. So there's a real kind of strong arming, I think, happening with regards to this. And then the last little piece is that, so I think it would be really important. I echo Joanne's comment that we should see the financials and not just the audits, but actually like the salaries, how much they're getting, how much are the package, benefit package. Like right now you're looking at the if you could just kind of give us some update on the new executive director that you're working on that search, what's happening with that, and what the full compensation package is, because you mentioned that it's not a commission, but it just seems unusual, because if their funds are being paid out of, if their salaries are being paid out of these grants, basically I think we need to know, other towns are raising this exact same issue about commissions, about how much these people are being paid. Why are they strong arming people so hard in these towns to adopt proposals that really don't seem to the town's benefit? So I think what we're hearing across these towns is what Ann is saying, what Joanne is saying, with so many, and I think it would be great if you could join us in this effort to find out really what's going on here at the COG. Thank you.
Yeah, my only comment is I think the town elected officials are very satisfied with the COG and have been for years. I will give you the financial information the same way the Cornwall budget financial information is available on our website. I will get you that financial information. So any other comments?
And about the executive search, like what's their full compensation package, and are the benefits, pension, like what is that's happening right now?
Yeah, I'm not on the executive search committee. That's being done by the executives who I mentioned earlier. And I'm not sure that is an executive session item. I'm not sure that's all available at this particular time.
The compensation package of the COG isn't available?
The one that they're proposing, I'm not sure what that is, and I'm not sure that's going to be public information until after they hire someone.
The public, you mean how much the COG executive director gets paid is not public information?
The current one is probably in the budget. I don't have their budget or their actuals memorized. I'm sure their salaries and that information get paid. What this executive search committee is proposing to pay the new director. I'm not sure that's public information at the present time.
So you
So,
weren't on the.
because I'm not
meeting-
involved with the search committee.
Oh, I thought you were at that meeting today, at 9 a.m.
No.
Oh, okay. All right, that would be great if you could get us the full compensation package, what the pension is, what the salary is.
I'll do my best, but I have many things to do, and I will try to get you that before our next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question.
Yes, Toby.
At the state legislature, there's a committee that recently passed 2 bills that affect zoning and housing affordability. And one is to mandate that all towns allow accessory apartments, and the other one would start to require more about affordable housing in each town. And neither one has been enacted yet, but they passed a committee meeting at the end of March. And I'm wondering if the town has taken a position on either one of those bills and written any letters in support of or against, if you have any comment.
No, the town hasn't taken any position on those. The town of Cornwall does allow accessory apartments right now. We're one of the first towns in the area to allow that. It is by special permit. What was interesting, I read somewhere that most Connecticut towns, I want to say 2/3 of Connecticut towns will allow accessory apartments. A lot of those are by right now and do not require a special permit. But at this point, and so a lot of some of the regulations, some of the regulations that are proposed in these housing bills affect larger municipalities than ours. So, and at this point, as we do allow accessory apartments in our own way, I did not feel it's particularly high on the list of things I generally agree there needs to be more types of housing available in Cornwall. And I think that will be one of the things we're working on with the housing task force. So.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just want one quick comment about that.
Yes.
About the housing. There's that $2.5 million that the COG applied for us for Cornwall for pre-development funding for an affordable housing project for 2.5 million. And I think at the affordable housing meetings, people have been asking for that application to see exactly what the COG has in mind for us. And so I was wondering if you could try to get that application for us that was filed to the Department of Housing for pre-development funding. So we know exactly what the COG has in mind, because according to, I think the Cornwall Housing Corporation, they didn't have a lot of the details of what that actually is. So it would be great to see what the COG is planning.
I don't think the COG is planning anything. I think Mag Cooley explained that.
Cooley has her
a
hand
month
up
ago.
right now.
What?
Yeah, but the application
I
was
think
filed.
I think we've gone over this before, and I think we've established there is no $2.5 million project. And I think
I don't think we've established that. That's the thing. They said
I think it's been said. So again, I don't want to
I've
get,
said it a
but
couple
again,
of
this
times.
housing isn't on our agenda, but I
affordable
believe
housing.
Cooley, I think Jonathan said Mag Cooley's has her hand up. Clarify that issue again.
Go ahead, Maggie.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I have answered that before and explained that there is no project. We were sort of shoving our toe in the door when everybody was, some of the towns in the regional housing council have projects that are already in pre-development stages or know exactly what the next phase of a given project is. And those are very real numbers for very real projects. In the case of Cornwall and probably some other towns, our figure there is just a placeholder. It's just so that the Department of Housing doesn't forget about us, and that when we do have a project, when we do have land and something we want to do, we've got something indicating that, yes, we have asked for money and we've put them on notice that we will be asking for money. And in the meantime, we very well could be asking for money for repairs of Cougarman, say.
I think
And
also,
I'm done.
as two historic points, when I was on planning and zoning before I became a selectman in the 1980s, the first selectman at the time, Patsy Van Doren, would sit in on our planning and zoning committee meetings at the end of the table and said, we're not going home until we do something in this town about housing. And that was the start of housing, appointing the Cornwall Housing, the Cornwall Housing Corporation, Cougarman Village. And that was all done locally. That was because of the leadership of the town. The COG had absolutely nothing to do with that. Same way when the town built Bonnybrook, that was an issue. Some people didn't want Bonnybrook. Some people didn't want senior housing. Some people didn't want affordable housing. Some people were very adamant about it. There were personal attacks against the people that wanted to give people a chance to have affordable housing. But the COG had no role in those discussions. Those were all Cornwall's discussions, because as long as I've been a public official, housing's been an issue. And certainly the economics of today are just as difficult for people as they were in the 1980s trying to live in town. So again, this is not COG generated. It goes even before I became a selectman. People thinking in town, elected officials, this is an important priority for the town. These issues have been controversial in the area, but there's also been Cornwall solutions, Cornwall initiatives to try to bring housing options to the town. So I think, putting this on the COG isn't really correct. Any other comments? Sorry, I talked more than I like to during these sessions, but I think that's sort of my role as town official, to try to clear up some of the misinformation about what are the origins of these issues, how does the town try to address them, and I think it's important to get the real facts established, what the history is. These issues didn't come up this month, this year. We've been working a lot of these for a long time. Any other comments?
Joanne's got her hand up.
Do I get a second point or not?
Sure, but this
Thank you.
2 is all you get, though.
Okay, that's fine. Because at the, you've stressed, Gordon, the working relationship of you and the other 20 selectmen and mayors on the COG. Yet the other day, the other 20 colleagues did not support the second bill that Toby referred to. And you were the only one who spoke in favor of it. And maybe you would like to tell us all why, so we can have a better understanding, so we don't have these misunderstandings. Why did the other 20 feel that it wasn't the right thing for their town, and you feel it is the right thing for our town?
Well, I don't think there was a vote taken. I might have missed something, but I think in all these towns, housing is an important issue. I think people can disagree on what role the state should play in it, but I think housing is an important issue for the state. It's an important issue for the country. And I think our town has always been a leader in trying to make housing available to people. Housing in Cornwall costs more than a dozen other places. So it's perhaps because of that, it's been an issue here more prominent. But I think most area selectmen would agree that trying to keep young people here, keep older people in the communities they lived in is an issue. So I mean, we may disagree on certain pieces of legislation. Again, I haven't testified on anything, but I am sympathetic in the efforts to try to get a dialogue going and seeing how Connecticut could have better housing for a variety of people in its borders. So, and I'm not afraid to speak out, even if I'm the only one, some conversations, but again, we work together well. I don't think there's any big division there. Okay, any other questions?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay, anyway, thank you all. I understand these meetings go on, but I think it is important to have these discussions. These are discussions that are going on nationally, statewide, locally. Again, it's important to talk to your representatives in Hartford, pay attention to what is going on. And anyway, thank you for joining us. Okay, thank you, John. Keeping us going. So I'll make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.